daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Good morning. It's Saturday, the best day of the week because A, it's the start of the weekend, and B, it means we've got a whole load of football this weekend. I love Saturday mornings. It's a great time to be a football fan, isn't it, Saturday mornings? Because you've got all that hope, all that aspiration for how your team's going to do. You're dead excited, and then inevitably it go wrong. But we are here, as we always are Saturday morning. Well, I say we are here. I'm afraid I'm on my own today because my partner in crime, my great mate and founder of GSPN, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Ken Davis, who I normally do these podcasts with, is not here today. He is in hospital, recovering. At least I hope he's recovering because I haven't heard from him. He's recovering from an operation yesterday. So I feel, if I'm honest with you, I feel a little bit like I've lost my right arm. I'm doing it on my own, but wishing Ken the very best, and let's hope he hasn't lost his right arm, because that's not what he went in for. We are going to, of course, talk about all the Premier League games. The Saturday morning pod is always the same. We just predict, rightly or wrongly, mostly rightly in my case, wrongly in Ken's case, how the Premier League games are going to pan out. And there are 3 really good games this weekend, to be fair. Sometimes the fixture calendar, the computer, chucks up a fixture list and a game week of little interest. Last week was one of those. There were no really interesting games last week, and there were some 0-0s and all of that. But this week looks a lot better because we've got Man City versus Arsenal, which is the pick of the games. That's on Sunday. The whole Premier League fixture list kicks off this weekend, today rather, with Liverpool versus Everton, the Merseyside derby. That's a 12:30 start. That should be a good game. And then we've got an interesting one as well, Manchester United versus Chelsea. Pressure, of course, on Ruben Amorim. Neither side really getting going, we feel, this season so far, but we'll see how that pans out, and we're going to have a chat about that. Plus, of course, a roundup of all the other games that are going on this weekend. There are some good ones. So it should be an exciting weekend of Premier League football. We are going to kick off. Well, I'll tell you, where should we start? Let's start at the beginning. So 12:30 lunchtime, UK time. So that's in about 3.5 hours from recording this. Liverpool v Everton, the Merseyside derby. Always a game to be watched. It's always a game which is interesting. It's generally exciting. You don't get the kind of dullness of other derbies sometimes. So, and this one should be good. It should be good because both teams have started really well. Liverpool, as we know, have won 4 out of 4. Despite everybody scratching their heads going, yeah, but they're not playing well. Well, it doesn't matter. They've won 4 out of 4. So, good luck to them. Everton, surprisingly and joyously, have actually started well this season. And it makes a nice change because this is the first time... It's the first time they've started a season well for years. They haven't finished in the top 10 of the Premier League since 2018, 2019. And generally, in the last few years, they've been wallowing around the bottom of the league, getting sucked into a bit of relegation trouble, but not really doing anything. So it's really good to see them doing well this season. David Moyes is a fantastic manager. I really, really like him. And he's taken Everton since he joined them last. He's taken them back up the leagues. Grealish is a great signing. He's doing really, really well. And what we should expect in this game is Everton to give Liverpool a really good game. And I think they will give them a really good game. So Liverpool... Do you remember, whenever I see Liverpool in a Saturday lunchtime kickoff after playing in Europe, the ghost of Jurgen Klopp kind of swims into view because he always used to moan like mad. Do you remember the press conferences he used to have, whinging and moaning about playing on a Wednesday and Liverpool being penalised by having to play at 12:30 on a Saturday and all of that? Well, Liverpool haven't played at home on a Saturday at 12:30 after playing in the Champions League since October 2023. It's been 2 years since they played at home on a 12:30 on a Saturday in a European week. And that was actually against Everton as well. So Arne Slot has not been moaning about this. I'm very glad to hear. And I think, what's going to happen here? Moyes' record at Anfield is woeful. Okay, is woeful. He hasn't won in 20 matches at Anfield. He's only got 6 points from a possible 60. he will know that Liverpool are slowly grinding into gear. We were talking on the podcast the other day, the Daily Premier League podcast, just about. I kind of felt that if you were going to beat Liverpool, the time to beat them is kind of passing because they haven't really been playing well. They've integrated a lot of new players into the team, yet they're still picking up results. The problem everybody's got now, and Everton will have today, is that those players who are coming into the team are now starting to find their feet. I'm thinking of Wirtz particularly, who's starting now after a couple of shaky games to look much better. The centre of defence, Van Dijk and Konate, which looked all over the place in the early games, suddenly now looks much more settled and has stopped conceding goals. Still waiting for Salah to spark into life. It's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? He scored twice. He's got an assist, but it feels like he hasn't really started his campaign yet. It feels like this season hasn't really got going. So is this the day Salah breaks into Premier League life? If you saw him on Wednesday, he was great in Liverpool's Champions League win. He played really, really well, scored a brilliant goal. So if Salah suddenly finds his feet and Wirtz is finding his feet and the defence is shutting the back door, this is going to be a sticky afternoon for Everton. Their golden hope is, of course, Jack Grealish, who has started life in the blue of Everton as opposed to the blue of Manchester City very, very well. He's been their creative spark so far. And if they're going to do anything, let's face it, if they're going to do anything in today's game, then he's going to have to do something very, very special. But I can't see it. I can't really see it. I think Liverpool are going to just be too strong for Everton today. Whatever Moyes does, I think they're going to be too strong. They've got too much attacking prowess for Everton's back line. And as I say, their defence is now starting to look a lot more solid after getting off to a shaky start. So, look, Ken's not here, so we normally do a prediction. So you're going to have to fill Ken's boots, dear listeners, and we are going to do our predictions as we always do for these games. What do we think? Well, I think Liverpool are going to win. I think they'll win reasonably comfortably. I think it'll be quite a tight game. Everton will give it a go, but I think we're looking at a home win, and I think we are looking at probably, if you want to really go out on a limb and predict a score, 2-0. 2-0 will probably be fair. Goal midway through the first half, maybe, or early second half, and then obviously they'll score late in the game because that's all Liverpool do. And if it's 0-0 going into 90 minutes, by the way, Liverpool will still win because we know that they always score after 90 minutes. It's what they do. And I just think Everton will struggle. So I'm going for a home win. Listeners, shout out at your mobile phones, laptops, wherever you are listening to Daily Premier League podcast, your score prediction right now. Good effort. Yeah, it's difficult to disagree with you. Right, okay. Man City versus Arsenal, probably the pick of the weekend's games. Brilliant matchups. Brilliant individuals in play. And I'm really fascinated to see how this will pan out. Before I go into my prediction of a 0-0 stalemate, I'm really interested to see how this will pan out. So Arsenal have started the season very, very well. They've won 3 out of 4 in the Premier League. Beat Manchester United. They'll want to be beating Manchester City. City haven't started that well, have they? They've lost 2 of their first 3 games, but had a good win over Manchester United last Sunday. They had a good win in Europe during the week. But it's very difficult to kind of know what's going on with Man City. It's difficult to predict how they're going to play because they turn up one week and look great, turn up the next, and you think, okay, Man City are back, here we go. And then they turn up next week and look very, very average. Yeah, Rodri's coming back into the side, but look rusty against Manchester United. Defensively, they haven't looked great in the early days, but bringing Donnarumma in is absolutely massive, I think, for them. Haaland, we know, is on fire. So where's this game going to be won or lost? Well, let's talk about Arsenal's defence versus Erling Haaland, because it might be that. Now, Arsenal, they have the meanest defence in the league, traditionally very strong at the back line. Arteta knows how to play with the low block, and he knows how to shut teams out. They're the only Premier League this season yet to allow a single big chance against them. And bearing in mind that the next best, and there are several teams tied on this, is 4, that's very, very impressive. Will that be put to the test today with Erling Haaland running ragged? Because he is on fire. 6 goals in 5 games in all competitions. 5 in 4 Premier League games. He even scored 5 on his own for Norway the other week when they thumped Moldova 11-0, or was it 11-1? It doesn't really matter. They scored 11 for Norway. And he looks so good against Manchester United. He just looks so good. But he's not going to get the time or the space or the type of service that he was allowed to get against Manchester United's rather shoddy back line. Arsenal are tight. And if you keep Haaland out of this Manchester City team, where else are the goals going to come from? Well, look, Foden's back in the team. Phil Foden, it's great to see him back in the team, scoring and looking a little bit like his old self after his struggles of last season. That's good. So you kind of think if Arsenal's defence are on their game, it's going to be a difficult afternoon for Haaland. And if Haaland doesn't score, are Man City going to score? So we don't know. At the other end of the pitch, Gyökeres has started well. He's got 3 Premier League goals to his name this season. But we talked a lot last week in the pod about Arsenal's front line and the new look front line of Gyökeres in the middle and then Eze on one side and Madueke on the other. That is a brilliant front line. And it's going to put Manchester City's back line. It's a brilliant front line. What am I talking about? It is Saturday morning. It was a heavy night last night. It's a brilliant front line, and it's going to put Manchester City's back line to the test. And I just wonder where I sense that Arsenal are going to win this game. I really do. I sense Arsenal are going to win this game, even though I kind of hedged my bets when I was thinking about predictions and have gone for an entertaining stalemate, 0-0, 1-1, something like that. Something in me thinks Arsenal might well sneak it. City have lost 5 of the last 7 Premier League games immediately following a European midweek game. They lost 5-1 at Arsenal in February. Arsenal Arteta knows how to get at Pep Guardiola's teams. And I wonder if Manchester City aren't just quite settled into their season enough to be able to deal with Arsenal today. The other thing that's worth noting in terms of matchups or indeed individual players is David Raya in the Arsenal goal and Gianluigi Donnarumma in the Manchester City goal. Donnarumma's a brilliant signing. It's a great signing because that looked a really weak link coming into this season. James Trafford started the season in number 1. He only lasted a couple of games. Obviously, Edison left, gone off to Turkey. Donnarumma, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, is a great signing for him. And he pulled off a brilliant save last week against Brighton and Woes. Lovely curling shot for Man United. Suspect. I say suspect. It's not like you and me suspect. Suspect at his level, with his feet perhaps and his passing. He's not great at set plays, at dominating his area. He did it well against Manchester United, but again, Arsenal's a different kettle of fish with their set pieces. So I wonder if a set piece is going to undo Man City today. We'll see. But they are 2 great goalkeepers. And if it is going to be a 0-0, it's probably because they both have good games. So it should be the most entertaining game of the weekend. It might well be the most entertaining game of the season that we've seen so far. My prediction is a sneaky 1-0 for Arsenal. Your prediction, listeners, shout it out right now. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. You may well be right. Okay, we're going to talk about the third interesting game of the weekend of the big 3 interesting games. That's Manchester United versus Chelsea. But before we do that, this feels a little bit like a voice from beyond the grave. But here's Ken with a word from our sponsors.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right level to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Well, he can't be with us, can he, Ken? Because, as I said at the top of the show, he is in hospital recovering from an operation. But it's good to have him on the podcast, even if he's just reading out the Bioniq ad. So we hope you're feeling all right, Ken, and swift recovery, my friend. Right, Manchester United take on Chelsea tomorrow at Old Trafford. Oof. Oh, goodness me, what a hard time Ruben Amorim is having. How long can he survive? And we have this conversation every single week. Every single week. But the pressure is cranking up and cranking up and cranking up. And I don't think it's going to get any easier for him as Chelsea roll into town. Neither side, I think it's probably fair to say, neither side have really hit the straps this season. We know all about Manchester United's troubles. We know about their wretched 3-4-3 or whatever it is, their system, whatever system they play, which doesn't work. And we also know that that system isn't going to change. And we also know that Ruben Amorim did a pretty good job in his last press conference of talking himself out of his own position. Hashtag see Nuno. So what's going to happen here? Well, first, let's have a look at Manchester United first. Bruno Fernandes, let's start with him because he's a great player, and congratulations to him because if he does play, and he will play, let's face it, he's going to make his 200th Premier League appearance, and that's some feat. So well done to him. Unfortunately for him, though, it's not really going terribly well because he's been shifted to a defensive midfield role, which he's quite frankly pretty poor at. He's much better higher up the field. And Manchester United have both got a defensive midfielder who can't defend, and in doing the same, have lost one of their sort of number 10 kind of attacking talents. So part of the problem Amorim's got is what does he do with Bruno Fernandes? But what he's doing with them quite blatantly isn't working. But well done. If he makes his 200th appearance, then congratulations for that. At the top end of the pitch, they are creating chances, Manchester United. They are top or second top in Premier League chances created, touches in the opposition box. We talked all about this just the other day on the Premier League podcast, but they're just not scoring goals. And one of the reasons they're not scoring goals is that their front three, and they invested everything over the summer in their front three, is simply not firing. Now, you can't really blame Cunha for not firing because he's injured, so he's not playing, and Diallo's filling that role and not filling it well at all. But you are then looking at Brian Mbeumo and Benjamin Sesko. Now, Sesko looks lost, quite frankly. He looks like he doesn't really understand what he's meant to be doing. They're not getting him in positions where he can score goals, and his role in the team looks just uncertain because he's out of form. It doesn't really look that confident. I'll go back to the humiliating defeat against Grimsby in the EFL Cup, where Man United were taken to penalties. And this is their, what did he cost, 60, 70 million pounds? Brand new superstar signing. And he refused to take a penalty in the first, certainly the first 5, which really mattered. But then, of course, the penalty shootout went on forever. And he was about 9th or 10th. I mean, he was just before the goalkeeper had to take a penalty. Now, that tells you that you've got a player there who is all at sea, who lacks confidence and doesn't feel it. It just doesn't feel it. And that was apparent against Man City, where he just had a really poor game. He just wasn't in it. So he's got to buck up, and he's got to buck up pretty quickly. And then you've got Mbeumo on the other side, and I think he's played really well. He's undoubtedly their bright spark this season. He's played excellently. I thought he was the one player against Man City who shone out in red, and he's the one player who so far who is living up to his reputation. If they're going to do anything against Chelsea, he's going to have to come to the fore again. So I don't know. It's just looking poor because although they're having all these touches in opposition boxes, although they're creating great XG, although they're looking dangerous, they're just not scoring goals. It's quite hard to see quite where that's going. And of course, at the other end, they're conceding. The back line looks shaky because they're not being protected by the two sort of defensive midfielders, and they give away lots of chances. Now, as for Chelsea, well, again, you kind of feel they haven't really started that well. But what they have got is Cole Palmer back in the team. And he's been a massive miss for them. He came back into the team having from injury against Brentford last weekend, made a huge impact in his half hour or so that he was on. And he will be huge. He scored a great goal, by the way, against Brentford. He's got a great goal in midweek, even better, I thought, in the Champions League. And having him back in the team, creating and scoring goals, is a huge boost for Chelsea. It really is, because up top, they've got, Liam Delap played a few games, didn't really do much, then got injured, done his hamstring. João Pedro's made a very strong start following his £60 million move from Brighton and Hove Albion, scoring twice, providing 3 assists. So João Pedro and Palmer back in the team, I think, signals danger for a rather shaky back line for Manchester United. So in terms of how this game is going to go, it could kickstart either team's season, I think. If Man United win, it could really kickstart their season. If Chelsea win, I think it helps build on what feels like they're coming into form now. It feels like they're starting to motor in the right direction, and a win at Old Trafford would certainly help propel them with that momentum. I can't see anything other than a Chelsea win in this game. So I'm going for an away win in my prediction, and the pressure intensifying on Amorim, and Man United just still not quite in it. I'm going for a 3-1. If I've got to do a score, I'm going to go for a 3-1. So that's my prediction. Listeners, wherever you are in the world, shout out your predictions now. A couple of dodgy ones in there, people. But hey-ho, we'll see how it all goes. I've got to say, I'm not great at predictions league, so don't take anything I say as gospel. I think I'm always going to be right. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I'm not. Right. One of the teams that has been highly underwhelming this season is Aston Villa. Unai Emery's side yet to claim a point. They've yet to score a single goal. A single goal. If they don't score against Sunderland today, they are going to become only the 3rd top-flight team in history. In history. Not Premier League, I mean, like ever in football, in the top flight, to fail to score in any of their first 5 league games of the season. My question to you, quick quiz, is who are the other 2? Can you name the other 2 teams who have failed to score in the whole of football history? How long's football been going? 1884. That's many, many, many years. Loads of years. Only 2 teams have failed to score in the first 5 games in the top flight. One of them is Ipswich Town in 1970 to 1971, and the other one is Crystal Palace in 2017-2018 season. So well done if you got that right. Yeah, well done. I take my hat off to you as fine football historians. Good job too. Ken would have got that right. He knows all about these things. So where are Villa going with this? Well, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say because they just have looked really, really average and quite poor. Now, let's look at the positives here. Roberto Martinez back in goal. Well, thank goodness Roberto Martinez isn't playing in goal for Manchester City. Emilio Martinez is back in goal after his protracted on-off and then eventually off move to Manchester United. That is huge. That is huge. And he was absolutely key. He's pulled off a couple of great saves last week in the 0-0 draw at Everton, which would have otherwise, I think, ended in defeat. And that's good. Harvey Elliott came on and I think he's key to sort of driving Villa forward. Ollie Watkins needs to find some form. Morgan Rogers needs to find some form. Look, they've got good players, Villa. They've got some good players. Where I disagree with my good buddy Ken, and we've argued on this very podcast, is that he thinks Villa are rubbish. I think they're just in a bit of bad form. I think they'll come out of it. But they've got to find some form and they've got to find it fast. Going to Sunderland is not an easy place because they have started really well. And at the top end of the pitch and at the back of the pitch, they are playing very well. Robin Roofs has proven a really good signing in goal. Really good. Drew 0-0 at Palace last week. And for the last 15, I don't know if you saw the game, but the last 15 minutes of that game, he single-handedly kept Sunderland in the game. He really did. He pulled off some really good saves. So he's looking like a very good signing between the sticks. And at the other end of the pitch, Wilson Isidore, he's come off the bench and scored in both of Sunderland's home Premier League games so far this season. Regis Lebris. I'm having a nightmare with names this morning, people. Oh, it is Saturday morning. It is early. Bear with me. Regis Lebris they're a good side. They are a good side at home. Stadium of Light is rocking. It's a difficult place to be. They've already seen off Brentford. They've already seen off West Ham there. And I absolutely expect them to go and see off Aston Villa this afternoon. So my prediction is a home win, and I think it might be 2-0. Prediction, listeners, please. Yep, I think we're all pretty much on the same page there. Tottenham go to Brighton in what should be an entertaining game. We've got two good footballing sides there. Spurs, we know, have had a good start to life under Thomas Frank. Probably better than a lot of people would have expected. Not me. I think it was a great signing. I predicted at the start of the season for Tottenham to do very well. They've won 4 out of 5 games. They've only conceded 1 goal in all competitions. So they've got off to a bit of a flyer. They're a completely and utterly different team to Ange Postecoglou's chaotic Spurs. They look solid at the back, which you couldn't say, and you haven't been able to say for a Spurs team for quite some time now. They're looking good going forward, and they look like a proper unit. Their victory against Manchester City earlier in the season was one of the best performances I've seen, well, probably this season from any Premier League side, just in terms of their tactics, in terms of their mentality, in terms of their togetherness, and in terms of their ability to win games. And I thought they played Man City brilliantly. So they've got a great signing in Thomas Frank. They've made some astute signings in the transfer window, and I expect Tottenham to go on and have a good season. Brighton have been a bit underwhelming this season. They've got off to a bit of a sticky start, and whether it's just kind of a natural finding of in the right order, if you like, of where Brighton should be, and perhaps they've overachieved in the last 2 or 3 seasons. We don't really know. Early in the season, but they've only won 1 out of 4 games so far. They haven't looked massively convincing, but they do play good football. And when they beat Man City, I thought they were terrific. I thought they played really, really well. They've got 2 very good attackers on the wings. They've got Yakubu Mente, who's caught the eye. You've got Mitoma, who I love, and they're threatening to kind of break out, but they haven't quite broken out of their shell this season. They did the double over Spurs last season, but as I said, you can't really take much into that because it was Ange's Spurs, not Frankie's Spurs. And Frankie's Spurs are a different proposition. So I think this will be a good game to watch. 2 very entertaining football teams. I think Spurs' defensive capabilities will probably blunt the Brighton attack, and they've got enough in their armoury to nick probably a 1-0 win. So my prediction for this game is away win. By the way, we're seeing more away wins in the Premier League this season than we normally do. I think Spurs will win it maybe 1-0. 1-0 is my score, but I think I'm going to go for an away win. So all listeners, shout it out. What do you think is going to happen? A mix of views then. Yeah, a mix of views. Draw. I'm hearing Brighton win. Hearing Spurs win. Interesting. Right, in the last bit of the podcast, we're going to move on to the remaining games. But before we do that, a word from our sponsors.
Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
There you go. Thank you. That was read out by Jesse, who runs our GSPN Daily Liverpool podcast. And I was listening to yesterday's GSPN Daily Newcastle podcast, and they played that ad, and then they took the mickey out of Jesse and said, well, how come no Liverpool supporters speak with a Scouse accent, which I thought was quite harsh, because Jesse is a massive Liverpool supporter. He goes to all the games. If you want to catch up on Liverpool and the daily goings on from Anfield, do listen to the GSPN Daily Liverpool podcast. And likewise, if you want to know anything that's going on at St James's Park, day in, day out, do listen to the Daily Newcastle podcasts, all findable on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we're on YouTube as well. So plenty of places to find us.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
This podcast is the Daily Premier League podcast. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for making this part of your daily routine and catching up every single day on the comings and goings from the Premier League. If you do like us, then, and I hope you do, do hit subscribe, do hit like, drop us a line at Daily Premier League podcast. I don't know. I never know what the email is. This is Ken's job. This is Ken's job to tell us what the email address is. I think it's Daily Premier League podcast at gmail.com, but it might not be. But leave us a comment on Spotify, leave us a comment on social media, leave us a comment on YouTube. That's probably the best way to get hold of us. When Ken's back, he'll be able to tell you what the right email address is. Right, Burnley play Forest this afternoon. Oh, this could be an absolute dirge. I'm sorry. This is going to be a really boring game. Burnley are an incredibly boring side to watch. They bored their way to the promotion last year from the Championship to the Premier League with a load of 0-0s and 1-0. They don't really look like they're going to be capable of doing anything in the Premier League this season. They will go to places and lose. They'll be kind of difficult to beat at home, but not really doing much. I just find them hard. I just find them hard to watch. Look, there's no criticism of Scott Parker. You can only work with the tools that you've got, but I don't think they did a great job in the transfer market over the summer. And maybe Scott Parker's thinking our best chance here is doing what we did last year and make ourselves incredibly difficult to break down. And that's what they're doing. So although I'm kind of slagging Burnley off a bit, I think they are due credit for making themselves very, very difficult to beat. As I say, it doesn't make for good football or an interesting watch, but they are very difficult to beat. I mean, look, think of the game last week against Liverpool. It took Liverpool 93 minutes to break them down, having had probably 185,000% possession. It was just one-way traffic. It was like a training game. And even then, it was a ridiculous handball by Hannibal, just when you thought Burnley were going to get away with a 0-0. But they were very resilient. I thought they defended really, really well. And that's it. You know, they're just hard to beat. They're hard to break down. And they're playing Nottingham Forest at home. And Forest, well, we know what's going on at Forest. We've talked about it loads on this podcast over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Don't know quite what's going to happen because we don't quite know what Ange's Forest are going to look like, other than the fact they played 2, lost 2. They lost in the league to Arsenal last week, which is, fair enough. A lot of teams do that. But they lost in the League Cup this week to Swansea, despite being 2-0 up, and despite in the 94th minute of the game being 2-1 up. But then they conceded in the 94th minute, they conceded in the 98th minute, and went out. And I wonder if that's kind of classic Ange ball, if you like. So it's going to be an interesting time to see how Forest change from that Nuno way of playing, which is defensive, low block, play on the counter. And they've got great players to be able to do that. Whether they can adapt and whether they've got the players to adapt to what Ange wants them to do, which we are expecting to be a much more attacking role, much more front foot role, higher line, goals galore at one end, goals galore at the other end. It's not the Forest way in recent times, but we'll see. I'm kind of expecting it to get worse before it gets better. I am. I think for Forest, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and then it might not even get better. I think they're in for a bit of a tough time. The whole Nuno thing we've discussed. I'm not convinced that Ange Postecoglou is. I like the guy. I really like the guy, but I'm not sure. And he's a very, very good manager. Yeah, let's not pretend that he's not a good manager. Let's not pretend that he doesn't win things. I'm just not sure he's the right fit for Forest at the moment, given the culture and the way Forest have played has been set in stone over the last year and a half. It's going to take quite a lot of time to break that stone and reassemble it in a way that Ange wants them to play. So it's going to be a tough afternoon for them today, I think, at Burnley. Burnley, as I say, looks solid. There's only one thing I can do. Having said everything that I've said, I'm going for a draw and I'm going for a 0-0. There you go. Prove me wrong, listeners. Shout it out right now. How do you think we're going to get on? What do you think the score's going to be? Yeah, most people going for a Burnley home win or a draw. Not many people going for Forest there. So, not many people fancying him. Speaking of managers I wasn't speaking of managers in trouble, but it would have been a great link if I was. Let's take a trip south to the most soulless stadium in the Premier League, That is, of course, the London Stadium or the Athletic Stadium or whatever you want to call it other than the football stadium. And that is, of course, West Ham United, who are at home to the Palace today. They play Crystal Palace at home. Yeah, Graham Potter. He is probably next for the sack. In fact, rumours circulating this week about Nuno Espirito Santo. That's not going to help. And it's certainly not going to help when you're at home to Palace, who are a very good side away from home. Yeah, it's not looking good for Potter, is it? Let's face it. West Ham have got off to a wretched start of the season. There's all this turmoil going off, off the pitch with the owners and the fan groups. And we talked, didn't we, a couple of days ago, if you listened to this podcast, about this unbelievable statement that the owners put out. And when I say unbelievable, it was just because it wasn't a statement, it was an essay, it was a dissertation. It went on forever, essentially trying to justify their position and justify the fact that they've spent loads of money and they've upgrading the stadium and all of that. But none of it matters. I don't think the fan base will buy any of it because they don't want to be there. The only reason that they kind of were happy to go there was because the owners said they were going to move the seats close to the pitch to try and recreate that Upton Park atmosphere, get the supporters close to the pitch. They never did that, so you're miles away. Anybody who's been to West Ham will know that you are miles away from the pitch. There's no atmosphere. The team is rubbish. Potter doesn't seem to be doing anything at all. And it seems to be heading in one direction, and that one direction is the Championship, which, let's face it, is the greatest league in the world, but not where West Ham want to be. So another defeat or two, and the West Ham board's resolve in keeping Graham Potter, in buying into this long-term project, etc., is going to be tested to the hilt. It really is going to be tested to the hilt. If they're going to get anything out of today's game, they need an early goal. They've got Paquetá up front, who's back playing well after all his allegations of match fixing, which he was cleared about. He's back playing well, which is good. Jared Bowen remains, I think, a threat and their best player by far. But Palace are a different beast, I'm afraid. Palace are a different beast, and I think they are going to win and win fairly comfortably. I can see 2 or 3 goals going in the West Ham goal today. So my prediction for this game is away win for Crystal Palace. I'd like to see Mateta back on a score sheet. Sarr's been playing well. They're still getting used to life without Eze a little bit. Good to see Gay back in and playing well. That back three looks rock solid. Gay, Chris Richards and Lacroix, they look rock solid. I think they're going to be far too good for West Ham today. And they know how to win. They've got one of the best managers in the league in Oliver Glasner. So, yeah, I think maybe 3-0, 3-1, something like that. What do you think, people? What do you think? Shout out your predictions for West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Okay, fair enough. Yep, no problem with that. Right, let's move on quickly then. Wolves versus Leeds. Feels like a little bit of a crunch match this already. Feels like a bit of a relegation 6-pointer already. Wolves, again, they've got off to a very, very poor start, but I don't think, a little bit like Villa, I don't think they're as bad as they're playing, but they've got to start winning games, and they haven't won a game yet. So, yeah, I mean, Leeds United, again, they're struggling. I've got them in my kind of bottom 3. I think for the end of the season, their biggest problem is they don't score goals. They just don't score goals. Their big signing up front, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, isn't, in my opinion, enough to keep them up. I don't think that's what it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't see much going on in this game. It's a game between 2 poor sides, but I think this is going to be the day where Wolves get this season going. I think they're going to win. I think home advantage will count, so I'm going to go for a Wolverhampton Wanderers victory, home win, very tight. It'll only be 1-0. There's only ever going to be 1 goal in this game probably. And I'm going to give it to Leeds. Going to give it to West. Going to give it to Wolves. Let's get even the game right. Wolves 1, Leeds 0, home win. What do you think, listeners? Yeah, I'll have all the Leeds fans on my back, as I thought. They all think they're going to win this game. We'll see. Right, a couple more then. Fulham v Brentford. Two teams who, again, not playing that well this season. Brentford, I think, are doing better than I thought they were going to do. I had them as nailed on to have a very poor season, but actually, they are showing life in the old bees yet, and they're doing all right. They're doing all right. I think they've picked up more points than perhaps we thought they were going to do. I think Keith Andrews is doing a better job than we thought he was going to do. And they're not looking like they're missing Johan Wissa too much. They're not like they're missing Norgard in the midfield, who's gone obviously to Tottenham in the summer. Yeah, I think they're playing okay. I mean, Fulham, again, they've started pretty lacklustre way. They beat Leeds, but weren't great, last time out. They've only won 4 out of the last 14 Premier League games at Craven Cottage, and they haven't really made any moves in the market. And you wonder if you are not signing players in the summer, A, you kind of move backwards, and B, there's a little bit of staleness creeps into your play. Marco Silva's a great manager, and they have got a good team, but they just don't really look like they're on it yet. And I wonder if we might go for a little sneaky away win in this game. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to go for a sneaky little away win. I don't know. Draw's probably the most likely, so I'm going to go for a draw. So Brentford v Fulham, 1-1 draw. Listeners, what do you think? Yeah, fair enough. It's one of those games that could go either way. Right, last game then of this weekend is tomorrow afternoon, 2:00 kickoff, Bournemouth versus Newcastle United. Now, that wasn't my Geordie accent, by the way. This will be a good game. I think this will be a highly entertaining game to watch because you've got two very good sides, particularly Bournemouth, who have started the season really, really well. Andoni Iraola's got to be arguably the most underrated manager in this division. And better than that, Bournemouth fans will be thinking this weekend, he loves playing Eddie Howe. He absolutely loves it. And he beats him. Where Bournemouth are really strong is the way they get around their pitch, particularly at home. They shut down space, they make it very, very, very difficult, and when they've got the ball, they transition very, very quickly. And with Semenyo's really started on fire this season, and I think they look a very well organised, well balanced team. I really do, and they're solid at the back. They are quick up top. They create chances very, very quickly, catch teams out, and I think they're going to be this season's, well, I won't say surprise package because they finished, just outside the European places, sort of top 10 most seasons the last couple of years under the manager. I wonder if this is their season where they're going to break out and maybe finish 7th or 6th and grab a European spot. Who knows? So they're a very difficult picture at home to play against, and I think Newcastle will struggle tomorrow. And one of the reasons they'll struggle is because of their front line. Now, obviously, the Alexander Isak. I really want to stop talking about Isak, but it has disrupted them massively. It really has, and they've been a little bit unlucky in as much as they bought in Voltemada, who looks a very good signing. They bought in Wissa, who is a very good signing, but he went off into international duty and knackered his knee. So he's out for at least another few weeks. Eddie Howe saying yesterday that he's out until the next international break. So they miss him. Voltemada is kind of getting up to speed. And again, Eddie Howe was talking yesterday around treating him with kid gloves, really wrapping him in cotton wool, and just they can't risk him getting injured as well because they really are up the creek without a paddle. And so whether he starts tomorrow, I don't know. It doesn't feel like he's going to start the game. Anthony Gordon has been filling in at number 9 and has done a pretty poor job of it. He was pretty wretched against Barcelona in the week. He missed an absolute sitter early on, and he isn't a number 9. He just isn't. So he's suspended anyway, so he can't play. So that leaves them. Where does it leave them? With somebody through the middle? Maybe Will Asula will come in and start. Down the flanks, Anthony Elanga's great. He's a really good start to the season. He was a very astute signing, I thought. And Harvey Barnes has been getting the game time, but I prefer Jacob Murphy. So I think maybe I'd quite like to see a Murphy, Asula Elanga front three for Newcastle tomorrow. That'll be probably as good as they're going to get, and Voltemada coming on in the second half. It should be a good game. I really like watching Newcastle play. I think they've got arguably the best three midfielders, or the best midfield in the Premier League when they're all playing well, and Joelinton, Gutierrez and Tonali. I think they're a really good, powerful, strong three. Backline is okay. Dan Burn is Dan Burn, and we know what he's like. Great in the air, susceptible on his feet. Shah looked a bit shaky after his whack in the face in midweek, and wonder how he's gone. But Chow came on and played brilliantly, so we may see him. We may see him start tomorrow. We'll see. But I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. But I think Bournemouth are going to sneak it. So my prediction tomorrow is, and there's no disgrace in any of this, I think if you're a Newcastle, but I think it would be probably 2-1. 2-1 to Bournemouth, but entertaining game. Right. What is it you think is going to happen? Listeners, shout it out now. Yep. Okay. Yep. I think I agree with you in many ways. Right, folks. That is today's predictions and today's, and the weekend indeed, Premier League games. Thank you. Thanks for joining in with this. Thank you for keeping me company whilst Ken recovers from his operation in hospital. He will be back with me, I'm very glad to say, in the next couple of days, all being well. And we wish him a very speedy recovery. Enjoy your football this weekend. Whoever you're going to see, I'm going to be at Pride Park later on this afternoon watching Derby County versus Preston North End. And we are all hoping for a win for the mighty Rams. They are looking a little bit better after their transfer activity this season, and the players they've signed are starting to get fit, and we're starting to look a bit better team than we were last year. So let's hope Derby can win today. But whoever you are supporting, whoever you're watching, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a good weekend. I hope your team wins. Not that everybody's teams can win. And we're going to have a wash-up of all of this tomorrow evening, and we'll see how my predictions pan out. And am I a football genius, or am I talking absolute rubbish? We shall see. But until then, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for making us part of your daily listen. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Goodbye.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide...
That was completely the wrong sting. I've had an absolute shocker this season. I'm still here. I'm going to go and watch some football, but probably after lying down in a darkened room. Let's get it right this time, shall we?
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.